There's been explosive testimony at the Public Investment Corporation Commission of Inquiry, where suspended Assistant Portfolio Manager Victor Seanie revealed that senior management went against his advice as an analyst that the AO Technology deal's valuation was just too high and not a prudent investment. Now, he believes that the AO Technology deal only happened because of an existing relationship between the PIC's Matjila and Iqbal Surve. Now, for more on the story, we cross to our anchor Nompumelelo Siziba, who is live at that inquiry into the PIC's affairs in Pretoria. Good afternoon to you, Nompumelelo. Well, Victor Seanie has made very serious allegations around the AO Technology listing deal. In essence, what did he say?
Thanks very much, Arabile. Yes, well, he had very damning things to say about a few deals, in fact. So in terms of let me just give you a little bit of background. So he is the assistant portfolio manager, and what his job essentially is to do the research around a prospective company that the PIC may decide to invest in. So he looks at things like the valuations, and then he will do a conclusion and a recommendation, which he then passes on to his portfolio manager, his line manager, and then it just goes up a chain. And so when he looked at the IO deal, he said that he didn't feel that it was a prudent investment, and on top of that, he valued it at a much lower level than the PIC ended up paying for it. So he says that in terms of the circumstances around how he got involved with IO, it was on the 16th of November in 2017. He was doing whatever he was doing, and then he gets a call from the head of listed investments PA, Fidelis Madavo. Remember, he also has been suspended. That's his boss. But his PA got in touch with him and said, listen, there's a possible deal with a company called IO. Please go and have a meeting now. He said that was a very unusual thing, because usually meetings are preordained, or you have a little bit of notice, but he was basically told, go now and meet those people. So he met with IO representatives, and he said that the exchange initially was not, he felt that the executives that he was dealing with were very dismissive. The following day, the 17th of November, he asked one Malik Sali, who he was dealing with directly, to send the prospectus of the IO IPO, that is the initial public offering that was going to happen on the JSE. They wanted that deal to happen within 3 weeks, so there was very little lead time. Usually he says that it takes longer to come to a conclusion on what companies they're going to invest in. So it took a whole week before this chap then sent him the prospectus that he had requested, and from there he was able to do his assessments and so on, and made the recommendations that I've told you about. Anyway, the bottom line is that despite his recommendations, his bosses then came back to him and said, look, please change the conclusions and recommendations to this, basically going against what he wanted, what he had advised. And he had to change that because he compiles the report and he has to finish the report. So against his better judgment and his advice, he did as he was told, and then subsequently that deal did go through. And of course, as has been mentioned, processes were not followed. So what was supposed to happen was that that deal was supposed to go to the portfolio committee on listed investments. That never happened. The meeting that took place on the 20th of December, basically it was already a fait accompli that the IO deal had been done, because CEO Matjila had already signed what they call an irrevocable subscription agreement with IO on the 14th of December, which means that that deal was going ahead. And so basically he said a lot of things were flouted, and he also talked about 2 other deals where he made recommendations that the valuations were far lower than the PIC was prepared to invest, and yet they still went ahead with those deals, including the Sagamata one. Of course, in the end, Sagamata didn't happen because the JSE refused to list it. But had they listed it, PIC would have been invested in that. And of course, that is another Iqbal Surve company. Arabile?
Yeah, that Iqbal Surve relationship with Matjila seems to be a sticking point as well. Won't you just detail for us just how close those 2 gentlemen are?
Well, it's not clear how close they are, but one of the things that Vincent Seanie did mention was that in a meeting that he was in with Iqbal Surve, Mr. Surve made the point of letting him know and others know that Dan Matjila was a good friend. And, you know, I mean, who makes those statements? So he basically registered it that they are good friends. And he said, to use his words, that this was the genesis and the main driver why the IO deal happened in the first place. That's his view.
Yeah. What did he say then about the PIC suspending him? That's Victor Seanie as well. Last week then. Did he feel that it was, of course, of wrongdoing? And did he say what influence was brought about to create his demise or departure last week?
Well, Arabile, he said he was surprised, he was shocked to get this suspension letter because, you know, he had dotted all his I's and crossed his T's as far as he was concerned. So genuinely surprised. But what he has said and what he's concluded is that he's been used as a scapegoat because he apparently was very forthright and very candid about his views on certain deals. And, you know, it went against the grain. It went against the grain in terms of executive management and their intentions. And so because he was open and he was candid, he feels that he's being punished for it. And he said that they cited a few reasons why they decided to suspend him. One of them being that when he had a meeting with the PMC, the Portfolio Management Committee, there was a meeting there and he didn't talk about the fact that the irrevocable subscription letter or document had been signed on the 14th of December 2017 by Dan Matjila, because as far as he was concerned, that would have been common knowledge because it was done by the executive management. So they've reprimanded him for that. Yeah. So it's kind of disingenuous in a way because at the end of the day, they signed it. So that's one of the reasons. And there are a few other reasons which I can't quite recall. But basically, he says he feels like he's been scapegoated.
Look, Nompu, despite your excellent work out there, of course, in Pretoria, you are allowed to come back to your seat, which I am, of course, keeping warm for you. But thank you so much for that reporting out in Pretoria. That's my colleague, Nompumelelo Siziba, out at the Commission of Inquiry into the Affairs of the Public Investment Corporation.